What's up, droners, and welcome to another edition of Droner Dialogue. And guess what? Today we're doing another example of a professional drone story of something that I did recently. I actually had the honor of working with Glide Aerial, which is it's a drone company based in Los Angeles that does amazing work for a bunch of different companies. And they hire me sometimes to come help on because they're like, oh man, the Droner Dude B is pretty good at drone stuff, and I get to work with them sometimes. And it's great. I love them. They're great. I love working with them. You should hire them too. So Glide Aerials hits me up for a job, and it is actually for, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it before, it's the Red Bull Soapbox Derby. And this is a job that I was really excited about. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not before, but the Soapbox Derby is pretty dope. It's pretty cool. You get to see people fall all over the place going downhill in ridiculously overly produced soapbox cars, things. And we got hired, or Glide Aerials got hired to do it, and I got hired to be, a pilot with them. And super excited. And this is one of those stories where you get to learn about how you have to say no to a client and when safety trumps everything else, even getting the shot you have to get. So we'll start the story like we get to location. We get our flight location of where we're supposed to be flying from, and it doesn't necessarily fit exactly what we need or what the shot list that they're asking us for. So they're like, hey, we want you to get this big wide shot of the whole venue or the whole entire track, but we want to have the LA Center in the background or the LA skyline in the background. And they have us on the wrong side of the hill to do that. So we're like, we got to move. We have to figure out locations, blah, 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 blah. We do that. But the thing that this client failed to tell us is that there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. But we'll get back to that. We'll backtrack to the day starts. First thing I do is I get to meet the FSA. If you don't know what FSA is, the Fire Safety Advisor. In Los Angeles, whenever you do a permitted drone flight, you are normally required to have a Fire Safety Advisor on set. I have no idea why you have to have a Fire Safety Advisor on set, considering they don't literally bring anything. They just stand there. They don't even have a fire extinguisher. So it's like, this drone obviously is going to start a fire that you'll be able to put out with your feet. I don't get it. But either way, you have to have an FSA, and typically what their job is to do is to make sure that you are they're enforcing making sure that you're following the FAA rules. Part 107, can't fly over people, can't fly at night, can't fly in restricted airspace, blah, 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 blah. So we meet the FSA. Some FSAs really know what they're talking about, some of them don't. This guy knew his stuff. And he he met with me and was just like, hey, how's it going? Really nice guy. But he was straight up just like looked into my soul and was like, so what do you do when you see a helicopter flying anywhere near where you are flying? I was like, I get out of the way. He's like, no, you land. I was like, okay, I land. I was like, I knew that I land. I just wanted to say get out of the way, but whatever. So I was like, cool, no problem. He's like, if you see anything else in your airspace, what do you do? And I was like, I land, sir. And he's like, good. So if I see you up in the air and with anything up there, like planes, helicopters, anything like that, we're gonna have a problem. Are we gonna have that today? I was like, no, sir, no problems. So that was like the omniscient, like that was like the foreshadowing of the day. It's like, wow, he was really serious about that. I don't get it. Lo and behold, there's a police academy directly on the bottom of this hill that we were shooting on this day, which is just so interesting to have there. So we go and we start shooting. We get our big wide shots in the morning, and as we're getting a big wide shot, this helicopter comes just vroom, like straight in. So what do? We land immediately, and it just circles. Just keeps circling and keeps circling and keeps circling. And the client's getting mad at us, like, hey man, we really need to get these wide shots. And I'm like, well, according to Mr. FSA over here, I'm not allowed to fly when there's a helicopter within my airspace. I'm not allowed to do that. There's a helicopter within the airspace that's actually, looks like they're circling this event. And then the producer, the guy was just like, oh, wait, that might be our helicopter. I'm like, what? And the helicopter goes up into the air, and then two people jump out of the helicopter with parachutes on. And I'm just looking at them like, you don't think it would have been like something to tell us ahead of time that there's a helicopter that you hired to be in the airspace that you hired us to fly in, that you also got us permits to fly in, that is dropping two people out of that helicopter that are going to be landing upon the start line of this race. That's just not something worth mentioning to the drone pilots. Cool, awesome, nice. So we didn't fly for that whole entire experience. As soon as the helicopter goes away, we start to get the drone together, we turn it on, we're ready to go, and bam, police helicopter. Guess what it does? It circles. And this could be a really long video because I could tell you about how many times that a helicopter showed up just to circle this entire event. But we counted 6. 6 helicopters, each one of them circling for an average of about 30 minutes of the event, which is ridiculous because the entire event only lasted about 7 hours. So Helicopters that grounded us, cool, whatever. There's spaces in between there, right guys? Of course there are. But when those spaces happen, guess what else happens? We had other drones flying. And it's not just so much that we had other drones flying. These other drones were flying specifically in our airspace in the exact same flight paths that we were going to be flying to monitor this race. And these drones were not permitted. These drones were not supposed to be there. And the people who were flying them knew they were doing something wrong because, I mean, they were flying directly over the crowd. They're flying directly over the race. They were doing a lot of illegal things. And it came to a point where those drones were up in the air for so long that stopped us from flying that the client again started to get very upset with us. And I shouldn't say upset. They understood. They understood what we were saying and saying it's not safe for us to go up right now because if we go up, then we have a collision with one of these drones. And those drones, our drone or their drone, was to fall into the crowd. Liability falls not only on us, it falls on this entire event. I'd rather be in the situation where we have that you didn't get the shots that you wanted from the air and had to rely on the shots from the ground, and everybody went home safely, and this didn't become a nationwide event, a news network event, that a drone injured somebody at a race for your brand. Like, that would be the worst possible scenario here. So it's just not even close to worth the risk, and that's how we explained it to them. They understood, but it's kind of one of those situations where they can't tell you what to do because you're the pilot in command, but you can tell that they have a lot of pressure on them to achieve these shots because they need them for their cuts. And it puts a lot of pressure on you as a pilot because you're there, you understand that they have the pressure on them, and now that pressure gets transferred to you without it directly being pressured. They're not like, hey, you just need to go up there and do it. They didn't say anything like that. They understood, they listened to our safety, listened to us. We were very smart. Glide Aerials is a very professional drone team. They knew what they were doing. And they were like, no, we're not going to fly. There will be no risk associated with our flights in this way. We're not doing that. What we did is we just said we need to find out where these drone guys are flying from because they're not supposed to be doing this, and they're also not supposed to be flying over people. So over time, they found out where the drone guys are flying from. They got rid of them, and we were able to fly a little bit. But it's so funny, as soon as we go up to do the flights after the drones are gone, then, of course, they had another chartered airplane, a stunt plane, a yellow and red one. It was really pretty. That was flying under 200 feet, AGL. And it's just like, they were flying, like, they didn't tell us that was gonna happen, of course. And the plane never even saw us. We were in the air and the plane is just coming in, had no idea we were there. So we had to do, obviously, emergency evasive maneuvers, get out of the way, and guess what? Land and wait. So most of the day at that event, I spent waiting to be able to fly. And it was one of the most frustrating experiences I've had because as a drone pilot, or if you guys have ever flown a drone, you have to imagine like how much fun it would be to fly a huge event like this. Like literally people falling down a mountain in these incredibly extravagant and creative machines of awesomeness on this crazy like course down the side of like a big hill with a beautiful backdrop of LA. Like you can't write stuff like that beautiful for a drone pilot. Like that's what I want for my reel for days. Like my soul ached for this, but that doesn't matter. None of that matters if you're not keeping it safe, if you're not following the rules, and if you're not doing the things that's keeping everybody else safe. So I wanted to express that to you guys just to once again, as I've done it many times, to really hit home the point of safety always comes first. You need to say no whenever it has anything to do with safety because you have to understand that when you are a professional drone pilot on set, you are the professional. That means you're the person who has to be able to bring the expertise to the situation to let other people know what can and cannot happen. And sometimes they may not like it. Sometimes you'll get that pressure from them. Sometimes you'll get all kinds of things happening. But when it comes down to it, when it comes to the drone flight, you are the pilot in command, which means that you are the one who determines if that drone flies and if it doesn't, and where it flies and where it doesn't. And you can never, ever relinquish that control for the sake of wanting to make the client happy. You want to do everything you can, of course, to make the client happy, but when it interferes with safety or legality, you shouldn't play that game. And because the only person that's really going to end up losing is you. You're the one liable, you're the one that's responsible for all of it, and you'll be the one that goes down in flames, possibly with your drone, if something really bad happens. So just make sure you keep that in mind, that you keep it safe, be as reasonable as you can with the client. Make sure you set the expectation ahead of time with the client and let them know that during certain circumstances, you may not be able to fly, and you're going to do everything, you're going to follow the legal procedures, and you're going to be safe. And that's pretty much what saved us the entire Red Bull event, is that we had set the precedent. Like in the beginning of the day, even before the beginning of the day, Glide Aerials told them what they would and wouldn't do. And then at the beginning of the day, it was reiterated. We won't fly if there's other planes in the sky. We won't fly if there's other drones. If there's any risk involved, we're going to have to land it. And FSA also reconfirmed that when we got there. So it was pretty much okay. It just was a very uncomfortable feeling all day. We did get some good shots that I hope they're very happy with. But at the end of the day, safety wins. So yeah, you should do that. Be safe. Droners, thank you so much for checking out this Droner Dialogue. And if you want to see more of them, we got them, because we got them. Or if you want to see the greatest drone video that's ever happened, yeah, I'm just joking, but the greatest opening video to a drone channel that's ever happened, we got it right there. As always, you can be as fly as me by checking the link out below to get one of these t-shirts. You can support the flyness that we appreciate, or us doing what we're doing, by checking out our Patreon page, because that is the best way to support us. Or at the very least, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because you get to see more of us and we know you're here to listen and watch. And as always, make sure you stay fly.